Live on CBC Business Morning. It's a Wednesday and it's business as usual. This is CBC Business Morning. And today, on this segment, we want to look at expectations of the business community and SMEs, especially during this political campaign period. What impact has this period got to do with the culture or the business community out there? This is what we're going to look at. And my guest, as usual, on a Wednesday, is no other than Mr. Chizu. Mr. Chizu is an author and businessman. Welcome to the interview.
Thank you very much, sir.
How have you been?
I feel great, and it's good to be here.
Right.
Yes.
Good to see you once again.
Thank you very much.
After some time, the break.
A lot has been happening behind the scenes.
Right.
But it's good to see you again.
Okay.
Yes.
The topic expectations during this period, especially the business community and SMEs. This period is a campaign period. Coming from a business background, what are expectations?
Yeah, expectations are several. But to begin with, first and foremost, I would want to add a voice.
Right.
To many other voices that have condemned very strongly the violence that is being exhibited during this campaign period. We would want, or I would want, to condemn it very strongly, in whichever form or wherever it may be happening, because violence by its nature creates a barbaric society. And when you have a barbaric society, it retards national development, as it were. Yeah, and of course, there's been a lot of other quotas. I would want to quote Father Lungu of the Oasis Forum and the endeavor which they had, where he said that, it seems as if political parties have not adhered to, the resolutions, or rather the agreement which was reached during their meetings of, conducting non-violent campaigns. You see, he did comment to say that it seems as if everything has been thrown to the wind. And of course, it's not only the Oasis Forum, of course the ECZ and FODEP have added similar statements to such a degree that Electoral Commission almost threatened to suspend the campaigns based on the violence. But as a business community and coming from SMEs, we do think that that is not a real solution. But we do think that real solution lies first and foremost. All these stakeholders that have voiced their, sentiments, including the political parties themselves, they haven't recognized the importance of giving a modern youth a rightful place, as well as the position in governance and, decision-making positions. They have reduced a modern youth to become a tool of violence. And I think that they shouldn't get surprised at the results they are able to see now. You see, there is the principle they call, they shouldn't only look at the input, but they also have to look at the output. Why is the output like this? It's because of the input. I think that the modern youth wants to have recognition in terms of representation and having a strong voice. And once that is given to the youth, I think that even the violence that is being exhibited today is going to reduce. And having said that, Mr. Chilandami, I also want to comment very briefly that our expectations, in a certain way, we have been disappointed as a business community. Because if you look at most of these political parties, they were talking so much about gender balance. Now, if you look at the gender balance issues, for us, it's like they haven't fulfilled. Because if you look at the women that have been adopted, there is no single lady or young woman who's a youth who I know who could have been adopted, concerning, the adoption processes of, being adopted as a member of parliament. For sake of, respecting our elderly women, what we have seen is that most of the women that have been adopted as a gender balance issues are worthy to be called our grandmothers. And these grandmothers of ours have already outlived their generation. They do not understand the challenges that a modern young lady who's a youth goes through in order for them to represent the youthful population of young ladies in a more effective sense. So that hasn't happened. To make the matters worse, when you talk about the youthful population, which is the majority of which we have been saying is between 62 to 72%, you find that very few, in any case, I don't even know if at all they are there. Young men who are within the youthful population who have been adopted into these governance and decision-making policies. So that is one thing that we would want to echo our voice as a business community, as well as SMEs. And I think for us, even this violence that is being perpetuated, we would want to find a solution to say that political parties themselves, they should take it upon themselves to create training camps within their political parties where they are able to train their political cadres to be issue-based of how they are able to conduct themselves during the period of election, and telling them to say that this is a disciplinary list of how we are going to treat those cadres that will be found wanting. For instance, no cadre should drink while he's campaigning and knowing that he's on duty campaigning for a political party. And if he's found drunk, is supposed to be suspended from political party activities of such a particular party, because most of these youth who are engaged in violence mostly is as a result of them taking alcohol or abusing certain drugs. When they are intoxicated, that's when they go to an extreme of, doing the things that they are doing, as it were. So I think that's the way we look at it as a business community, and those are the solutions that we are bringing on the table in as far as the perspective of violence is concerned.
Right. And I know during this period there are those promises where cadres are promised maybe stores in the markets because of belonging to a certain political party. What impact has that got to do with the running of the business itself, removing the cadreism in the business?
Yeah, a very brilliant question, Mr. Chilandam. And this is why we are saying, even when I'm speaking here, I'm not taking any biased view. I'm not a partisan. I'm speaking as somebody who's a businessman, somebody who's a professional, somebody who has accrued, makes a lot of business sense and economic sense. And I would want to look at it from the same point of view to say that, even the issue of providing opportunity to Zambians, it has to be a fair, leveled playing field. One should not be favored because he's supporting a certain political party. It's based on the abilities and what he has in order for him to achieve the results that he's supposed to achieve within the world of business. So all of us, we are Zambians. This country belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to a single political party. So that being the fact of the matter, we should regard each and every Zambian as an equal person with an equal opportunity. Probably what should separate them is because of their abilities, which they have acquired in terms of intrinsic value, which they are able to, make their businesses become successful, as it were, by applying their skills, by applying their knowledge, and by applying their training and their experience, which they have accrued in the backyard. Because that is what sets them apart. Because you are not going to rise above your fellow friends if you haven't got something unique in terms of the package, in terms of an offer that you are bringing to the table. So I think that that should be we are talking about.
Right. And just one quick one. There are a lot of vendors, those who are maybe dealing in second-hand clothes along Lumumba Road. Some of them have been there, some I know, 5 years, 6 years. How can they grow their business from that kind of environment? Because it's risky. Change of government, change of policy. But here is somebody who wants to grow the business, but also they are limited to certain maybe to the environment and certain conditions. How can you advise one who is doing that kind of business to quickly grow the business and graduate?
In the first place, Mr. Ichilandani, it's good that you have brought about the issue of Lumumba Road and the congestion there. I do sympathize with the people that have been trading in that place because they do not understand the risks to which they are exposed to. Imagine that is the road that mostly these huge trucks uses, and suppose it was to lose control, it means that most of the people can lose their lives there. So you see, even the government should look into that, not to appease people in order to gain political mileage for them to be given the votes. I think the best they can do is that to find a best designated place where they are able to build a certain structure, like the way they have built the markets in a similar way, but have a certain complex building where now they can have, departmental stores, demarcated, so that each and every person who has the money will be able to rent out. As they rent out, it means that they are going to improve on the corporate image of the store traffic in the place in which they are selling, meaning that they are able to sell their establishment in a more, something that will make a more business sense, unlike in a congested place as it is where they are doing their businesses. I think this is a matter of the government, and the government must do something about it so that it is able to help, uplift the standards of those people that are trading in a more congested place, which is more risky, as it were. And I think the government shouldn't pay a blind eye to it, just on the aspect of, gaining political mileage and getting some, votes out of it.
Okay. Again, during this period, you find that the kwacha it loses value against the dollar.
especially during when we are going towards the elections. What causes that? Is it anxiety, or maybe people hold on to their money, they can't trade?
Well, factors are many. And it's important that you have brought about this issue. And I would want to take this opportunity to tell you, Mr. Chilandami, that we are tired of these political campaigns using the same language and the same terminologies of saying that we are going to create a favorable environment or a conducive environment where businesses are able to flourish. Governments have come in and governments have gone in using the same type of language. Our expectations as a business community and SMEs, we're expecting that this time around these political parties are going to base their campaigns on more specific issues, which they are likely to address to the ordinary citizens of this country. And for instance, like if somebody says we want to improve productivity in this country, productivity is a terminology, but we need to know how are they going to do it. Which specifics will lead to that productivity. And this is why, as a business community and SMEs, we are of a view and we do know that our country is a donor-oriented country. And the fact that we are a donor-oriented country, we are of a view that every time our people who are given the mandate into office go to lobby for funds, or rather to lobby for whatever, they shouldn't lobby for borrowed funds. You see, but what we are saying is that they should change the approach. They must start lobbying for physical resources in terms of equipment and machinery, so that we can have our own manufacturing plants within our country. That will enable our country now to start producing our own products and services. And when you are producing your own products and services as a country, there will be no need of you now importing the same products that you are able to manufacture within your own plants. I'll cite an example, Mr. Chilandami, of what is industry in America and Japan.
Right.
America is able to manufacture certain, prestige vehicles like a Jaguar, Mercedes-Benz, GMC, and they're able to usher those at a very expensive, exorbitant prices on an international market. But Japan has said and have told to say, look, we are able to manufacture the same vehicles that you're able to manufacture with the same quality, with the same everything. One vehicles on our market in Japan at an exorbitant price. So they have closed the market. No single vehicle is being sold on the Japanese soil. No single American vehicle is being able, or rather is being sold on a Japanese soil. And that has helped the Japanese people, to reduce the general products of the commodities, lower the inflation rate and everything. And that can happen in our country. Because if we're able to manufacture everything here, it means that we'll be able to buy our own products. This will lead to lowering, the prices of the products, general commodities of the products. Those are the specifics this should be campaigning about. It will contribute to the lowering of the inflation rate. It will contribute, to the general good standards of living of general citizens, and, reduce the poverty, as it were, of the citizen. And these are the specifics that we expected these political parties to be campaigning on. And coming to the other statements that we have heard, I would want to quote one of the opposition political parties, which was saying that when we come into power, we are going to use initiatives to create employment for the youth. For us, we do not buy that, because that is a generic statement. It is not trying to address a specific issue. How you address the specific issues in your campaign, you are going to say, on the issue of entrepreneurship, if we want to turn this country to be enterprising, so that the enterprise can now become the engine for economic development, you start addressing specifics. You are going to tell your people to say in your campaign, to say, look, we want to groom a new crop of business leaders who are going to have an hypermetropic sense by introducing SMEs training schemes as well as loan schemes that will be meant to empower the youth so that they are prepared to manage their businesses in a strategic sense and have an inheritance, an inheritance succession so that their businesses can be more sustainable. Right. Unlike the way it has been in the past, where the approach has been very myopic. You see, where somebody gets into business without having any strategic and succession plan, just getting in the business for mere hand to mouth because he needs to eat there and then, without planning to say that the business must be sustainable. Even when he dies, the business will go on after his life. Those things have not been there. So the campaign should have addressed the specifics of how they are able to empower, the youth, the general citizenry of this country, as it were. Now, having talked about that, if somebody is talking about specific areas to address, another example, if you are talking about load shedding, because it has affected the economic activities of our country. You see, we should move away from the same ideas which have been pronounced time and again of talking about ZESCO, what. We know that there are alternative sources of power. There is solar, there is wind, there is coal, there is oil. But beyond that, I think we must be glad to say that this country now, there is a new discovery that this country is endowed with a lot of gas and lot of oil in the northern province or northern part of this country. And I'm glad to hear that they have even offered a license to sanction the exploration of these gases and oil. And I do know that, Mr. Chilandam, for your own information, Sudan, as we talk now, Sudan is layering a land that is covered, barely most of the land is a desert. And they have no big water bodies. Part of the war that is happening in Sudan, Darfur region, is because they fight over little small water bodies. And now this is a country that is endowed, Sudan is endowed with a lot of gas and a lot of oil. And they have been able to sustain their industries, their major industries, supplying them with a lot of electricity without any load shedding for even 5 minutes, just because of gas. So gas is a big resource. So if we can have gas here, people must start talking about gas. How can it become a competitor to ZESCO, so that this monopoly aspect of ZESCO is no longer there? Because when you have a company that has monopolized the market, there's a tendency of having complacency, and thinking that it cannot it cannot be outcompeted, But when you have a big company that is competing with it, that monopoly is no longer there, because you'll have a company that is able to supply electricity using gas. So competition will come in. It will also help improve the efficiency of ZESCO, as it were, on the aspect of load shedding. And people will no longer talk about load shedding. And our industries will be able to perform perfectly well going forward. I think those are the things that we need we were expecting these political parties to be campaigning on. Address specific areas without uttering generic statement, as it were.
Right. Again, in this same period, we have seen, I think I just want your opinion, where there is these empowerments. For example, marketeers, they give them cash, or they give them so-called soft loans. Which one should come first? Is it training or the actual cash?
Mr. Chilandam, most of the times I'm here, I think the most important thing that we have valued, which is imperative, is the aspect of knowledge. When you allow people, and the problem that we have in this country, even these politicians, why we are saying what we expected out of their campaigns, It's because they want to appease people by telling them to say everything comes quick. It's a shortcut. You know, we must train our people. Training our people takes long. It takes time. It takes patience and endurance. And once people are trained, they will be able to manage their affairs in more effective way. Mr. Chilandami, they say that you cannot give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. So if you are well trained, you don't need even perhaps to be given cash money for you to start capital. The capital starts from your mind, from your knowledge. Like I've always given myself as an example. Nobody gave me capital to start my business. But I had first of all to go to school, acquire knowledge, you know, and from the knowledge that I acquired, I started my capital as my mind. And I've been able to expand my business to grow to a level where our business has employed a few people. We are able to pay them. They are looking after their own families. We have acquired everything, as it were. And everything, the capital started from the mind. It has been transformed into cash money. And I think the idea of dishing out money is not sustainable. They must change approach by equipping people with the knowledge. And having said that, Mr. Chilandam, I think let me say the comment on this issue that you have brought, because it is very important. You see, we shouldn't look at, you know, I believe that a rich person is a person who is able to acquire something that money cannot buy, or something that is beyond what money can buy. By this I mean that we must start tapping, you know, the God-given talents and gifts in our young people, and then develop them to the maximum. But again, God-given talents and gifts might sound like a proverbial song, as it were. They are not enough in isolation or alone, you know. We need to build a society of hard-working young men and women who have a vision. When we build a society of hard-working young women and men who have a vision, they'll be able to couple it with their God-given talents, you know, and gifts. And then they'll be able to acquire the tools that they need in order to overcome what you are talking about, in order to overcome unemployment, overcome poverty. The same tools that they have acquired will be able to help them overcome, you know, Great Depression, overcome all sorts of evils, you know, overcome illiteracy, overcome health, overcome, you know, all sorts of things, overcome more, etc., etc. Because when you have an educated nation, it means that you have equipped them with that intrinsic value within themselves, that they will be able to access any opportunity which is likely to avail or to be availed to them without any problem, because you have allowed them to grow tall in the height of industry, the height of experience, you know, the height of intellectual property, you know, the height of, you know, swiftness. And this can only come through patience and endurance. We shouldn't be excited emotionally by, you know, some politicians who want to come out in, you know, on a podium and make pronouncements to say, when we come into power, we are going to offer free education from grade 1 up to university, of which, even at the back of their minds, they know that that is not feasible and is not practically attainable. But just because somebody wants to appease and hoodwink the voters so as to get, you know, you know, political mileage out of it and get to State House, you'll be able to. But I would want to advise and take this opportunity to say that political leaders must become serious. You know, governance and decision-making positions is a difficult job to do. And as a spectator, before you get into it, you must make utterances that are serious. And why I've said this is because I would want to see a type of leadership, even before they get into governance issues, that are void of hypocritic views. views that are flattering and lying, knowing too well that things cannot be attained. I will tell you, for instance, Mr. Chilandam, the time we got independence, things were different from the way things are today and the current challenges that we are faced. And the time has changed. And that is the more reason why, if you were to reintroduce some of the philosophies that worked during the Second Republic era, they might not work in our time and age, like humanism, philosophy of humanism. You might find it not to work in our time because we have transcended over time. It's like now we are in, a more seemingly capitalist society. And I think whoever is talking must talk from a current, or rather what is obtaining currently in our time and in our environment, and the challenges that we are faced with in our time and age. You see, if somebody says he's going to provide free education, already we have seen that in our universities, some students are failing to write exams because even those on bursaries, their bursaries are being manipulated by well-to-do people, or rather abused. And now, how can somebody say that when I come into office, I'll provide free education from grade 1 to the university, when within their own political parties, they are failing to expose how they have raised their own monies for campaigns, political campaigns. They are failing to tell the nation the sources, or rather where they are getting their money for their political campaigns. But then if you question them to say, how are you going to raise the money for that free education from grade 1 to the university? Where are you going to find the money? Where are you going to get the money? I don't need anyone to give me a very serious and concrete answer. I'll cite an example myself. I've acquired also chains of, you see my CV, my resume. If you look at my resume, I've got all sorts of diplomas, certificates, degrees, whatever. This came through a lot of hard work, a lot of patience, a lot of endurance. And this is why, as our solution, the way we look at it, as a business community, we would want even these politicians, when they are campaigning, they have to say the truth by telling people that the only way to go is to build the spirit of enterprising in our citizenry, or rather in our people. That spirit of entrepreneurship or enterprising, coupled with hard work, with the drive to succeed, will be able to produce these things that we are talking about. Because if it starts from an individual, it will spill to the masses, to the majority. And before we know it, we'll be talking about it is now a Zambian culture. It becomes our way of life. And before you know it, you'll have built a nation. Because you are building a nation on a strong foundation of those tenets that are void of lies. Because you are able to extrapolate on the current happening situation and know that this is possible in terms of practicality, it is attainable. In terms of feasibility is attainable. If we were to tell somebody to say, are you able to quantify?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
Talking about wealth creation, we have seen a tendency where the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer. How can we bridge the gap?
Good question. Good question, Mr. Chilandai. How you bridge the gap is simple. You see, when you have a capitalist, seemingly capitalist nation, it's because it means that the few wants to accumulate even more. There's a selfish approach to it. Now, like we have said, I think partly it has been answered on some of the questions that you have asked previously. You see, we need to have an approach that we have talked about. When we have our people, or rather a nation that is educated, Mr. Chilandam, it means that nobody is going to block you or deny you any opportunity that you can rightfully possess within your own citizenry human rights. You see, I cannot block you when you have placed your value on the table. You have placed how much you are worthy on the table by the virtue of your intrinsic value. Because all you are saying is that you deserve this opportunity because you have grown to a certain height in terms of understanding the industry of business and economics and matters of business, not only theoretically, in terms of the practical, accolades that you have accrued over years. You see, all the package that you are coming with you makes you place a demand to the society. Put a certain price tag to the society because you have paid a certain price that now you need to start bringing out that intrinsic value to be seen, to say that, oh, I'm worthy this expensive vehicle that you are driving, I'm worthy this two-story mansion, I'm worthy this ranch of a farm because of what I've got within myself. And in the process, because our nation will be educated, nobody will be cheated on, nobody will be lied on. People will demand what rightfully belongs to them. Because even when the politician is standing on the podium and making pronouncements, you'll be subjecting them to proper scrutiny and evaluation. Because I believe that an educated mind is the most dangerous thing you can ever have in a human being. Because even when I'm talking here, Mr. Chilandani, I do know that I'm being subjected to scrutiny. And whatever comes out of my mouth, it might carry some weight or not carry some weight to some of the people. Some people will subject me to how much substance I'm bringing on the table. You see, and this is the main reason why no single individual should ever think that is indispensable. Because we have heard from some camps in the political campaigns to say that now that we have defected from that political party and all of us we are in this political party, it means all of us are here. It means those they don't have a human resource. Right. We don't expect such sentiments in our time and age. We must have a learned society.
Okay. Just as we come to the end of this program, I want you to define, education, because somebody out there may think you need to be educated in order to be a successful businessman. What kind of education can help you understand the business and become a successful businessman?
I would define it in a very simple term and in a layman's language. Right. And a simple analog. When you are going to a field to cultivate, you can't go to a field to cultivate without a hoe. So education to me is the tool that you acquire in order for you to use it to achieve what you want to achieve out of life.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, your final remarks?
My final remarks is that I think much as we are talking about this subject matter of expectations from this period of campaign, I would want to appeal to the public that I think we should subject all these people are campaigning from different political parties to proper evaluation and scrutiny, and by all means demean each and every person who's campaigning, not on issue based, because we would want to hear as many issues as possible, which are specifically meant to address specific issues and not making generic statements.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, viewers, that's all we had for you on our business interview this morning on CBC Business Morning. Catch us next Wednesday when we bring you more. I'm Evan Standard Mutanshi, and my guest was Mr. Lawrence Simpungwe Chizo. Good morning.